everybody. This is Rory Francis, and you're watching another exciting episode of Igniting Manufacturing. I have to live up to that exciting part. Today I have Harold back. Harold was a recent guest on here, and his bio is just incredible history in his family and the things he's accomplished and the mentorship he's done and the voice he's been. So we had him back. Harold, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Rory. It's good to be back.
Harold, we did. Last time we talked about a plethora of things. We talked about pride in American manufacturing and some museum pieces that you were in possession of and your advocacy for manufacturing. I want to get a little bit back into that. And we're going to throw up a graphic here in a second. And so I actually did this in Photoshop, just played around a little bit with it. And academia, government, and industry. And, we have some challenges in this country with workforce development and some of our educational needs and upskilling needs. And, this graphic represents, part of the solution. And I always say it's going to take a collaboration with academia. It's going to take some government involvement, and it's going to take the actual industry and manufacturers themselves to get involved, and they're probably going to have to do the heavy lifting. So, now, I had this conversation with some folks over the years, and I think the pendulum is starting to swing. So, Harold, you talked about, in your bio, it talks about, that city factory worker. And tell me a little bit about, where we're at today and what manufacturing looks like for someone, entering into manufacturing, for someone who's thinking about coming into manufacturing. Give me your thoughts there.
Well, I think a lot has transpired over the last 3 decades, Rory. I mean, you and I have talked about this in the first decade of 2000, 2010. We had a higher rate of job loss in that decade than during the Great Depression. Over 50,000 manufacturing firms went bankrupt. On average, more than 1,200 manufacturing jobs were lost every day for 10 years. So we dug a big hole. I think a part of what we're seeing now with efforts like you're doing here with bringing guys like Terry Iverson and Harry Moser, myself, and many, many others together to work in concert with each other, because I do believe, I'm convinced that all of us working together is stronger, smarter, and wiser than one of us working alone. So I think it's going to be that consortium. But what was missing, I think, the biggest thing that was missing, not the only thing, but was the political, the government, to get them on board. I mean, if you go back to 1949, about 30 to 33% of the non-farm workforce was made up in manufacturing. So if we just paint a word picture of that, that means every third house in your neighborhood, the uncle, the neighbor, the father, the grandfather, the cousin, the friend, is working at Ford or General Motors or GE. So what do you think the conversations were like around the community picnics? They're talking about what's happening in the factory. We had tremendous apprenticeship programs in place, and we were developing this workforce. And then we entered what I call the race to the bottom, where the winner loses. And we began to compromise on these important virtues that made us that big, that shining city on a hill that President Reagan used to talk about, and we're the producers to the world. We're beginning to see, at the end of my career, I began to see a renaissance, and I think I've heard you use that word. I think it's the right word, a renaissance that's occurring, and we're trying hard to invest in the colleges, technical schools. We're not getting the students out of the 4-year programs, not an indictment, not a criticism of the 4-year programs, but we have an urgent need today. We can't wait 2 years and 4 years to get a machine tool technician who's qualified to go out because the demand is so high.
So if we can't wait, what's the solution? What are our options here?
I think investing in the well, first of all, we got to get to the moms. Okay, we got to get the parents involved, and they understand that manufacturing is not the dirty, dingy job that they were led to believe it was. I mean, we're building rockets, we're building EV vehicles. There's a lot going on that maybe they weren't privy to. And the factories aren't dirty anymore. These are high-tech factories with data centers and data collecting abilities that we've never had before. So we have to work. I think it begins at the family level. The mothers got to convince the mothers that Johnny and Jill have a really nice opportunity to create a very good living for themselves, $100,000 or above in benefits. And then get into the vocational programs. I'm an advisor to Dave Fox over at what we call the Butler, that's the Butler County Precision Machining Group, and we're going to have our Skills USA event in two weeks. So these are high school kids, and he's got two of the top kids, not vocational kids, two of the top kids at Corrigan High School in that program. So we've got to enlist as many people as we can who have lived this life and knows that the future holds very great things for these young people, and get that message at the high school level. Then we got to take it into the community and technical colleges. You and I talked about this earlier. I met with Sam Collier, who's the Dean of Manufacturing for Gateway College in Northern Kentucky, and I took a couple friends of mine in there who are specialists. One authored the electrical and PLC and CNC training program that was taught at the Boeing Craft College out in Auburn, Washington. I wrote and co-authored the mechanical machine tool rebuilding program. So we're coming in to Sam, and he was overwhelmed. He's like, my gosh, I've never seen anything like this before. You guys are willing to just give back, And what we want to do is just focus on the curriculum or the syllabus that is specific to the vocation or to the task that we're asking these new people to do. There's an art called hand scraping in machine tools. It's a very precision art, very laborious art, and it's the life of the machine because it controls the alignments of the machine tool to make sure you get the tolerance results that you want. That's not being taught. That's falling into the black hole. And there's a lot of machines out there that need to be serviced. And they need to be re-scraped. I know that sounds very primitive, like you're scraping a hog, but it's not. You're talking about microns. That's how you align machine tools. Unless we give back and unless we invest and we mentor and we help write the syllabus, we'll have a difficulty meeting the demand that we're getting from the reshoring that we're seeing taking place. I mean, we reshored 267 thousand jobs last year, according to Harry Moser's latest report. We're going to do like 300 plus this year.
Yeah, I want to back up a little bit, and you heard me mention Terry Iverson, and Terry actually, his family Iverson, they've been in manufacturing 100 years. Actually, literally, this is their 100th year, and Terry ran Iverson Machining. He wrote a book, and he's a very bright gentleman. He wrote a book on manufacturing to students, and pointed out what you said about, six figures or above, and it's not the factory of yesterday. And the front of the book is to students, and you flip it over, and the other side is a mirror image of the book, and it's directed specifically to the parents, because anybody that speaks about workforce development knows that we need to get the parents on board. And here's a couple, and I'm going to throw you threw a stat out there. I want to talk about one of the stats you put out. But 87% of parents want their children in the United States to go to a traditional 4-year degree. 84%, and that stat's been around for a long time, and it varies a point or two depending on who's doing it. But just recently, they polled students, youth, 18 to 21, those folks entering the workforce or choosing to go to college. 84% of them said that they never thought of a vocational training. 89% said their parents kind of discouraged it. That's a a horrible statistic. We created, you can ask several people, and is it 30 years, 40 years, or 50 years of diminishing our vocational training? It's a substantial period of time that we lost a generation, and there's very few of us out there to pass the torch. But you talked about a stat about a healthy America when every third house was in manufacturing, 33%. Unfortunately, I do know this stat. That stat today is 12%. And we need to change that, because manufacturing has always led to a prosperous America, and we need to get back to that. And there's plenty of blame to go around. Offshoring, short-sightedness, capital ventures, shareholders capitalism versus stakeholder capitalism. Plenty of blame to go around, and we could discuss that ad infinitum. It's time to start talking about the solutions, and focus on that. We know it's not good, and we know we need to improve. So you talked about Gateway, and it was essential here. What resonated with me, and I'm going to let you get a word in here in a second. You talked about working with them on their curriculum, and I think that's key. And that's I have that graphic up: academia, industry, and government, and getting government support. And we're seeing it at the IRA. But how important is it for the industry to have a voice in these certifications and these curriculums at these schools? How essential is that?
I think it's absolutely essential. I think that the industry has to work with these institutions and these governing bodies to help draft the certifications, to help develop a curriculum. We absolutely have to have that piece involved. It's a three-legged stool, as you had said earlier, and it's essential that we have that. All of us working together is going to be stronger, smarter, and wiser than one of us working alone, right? And that means everybody working together. What we have to teach the politicians, and they need to be taught, okay, because many of them don't come from manufacturing backgrounds. And guys like you with this program, and Harry and others, I'm so grateful to you. Let me thank you for introducing me to Terry Iverson. I really didn't know Terry. I watched one of his videos last night. He's a godsend to the industry. He's just, it's amazing what he's been able to do through his 501(c) program. And I'm going to follow him.
Champion Now. They're a great organization. Yes. Anybody who's listening, please look at it and look at Terry's books. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Harold.
Yeah. So I think we have to teach them that innovation, inventions, and work is performed by people. So we must be committed not only as business leaders, stakeholders, and politicians, but as a nation, to the development of our skilled workforce, if we want to be the leaders to the world again. Okay, that's what is missing, is that cohesiveness, that collaborative effort that you referenced so eloquently, Rory. I think the key to the future success, and we did this at FMSI. We developed a mission that we called One Fee, One United Team, which first brought all of our divisions together. We're the best kept secret probably in North America, because we have every piece of what's happening in manufacturing today. We've got the AI piece, we have the automation piece, we have the training piece, we have the metal cutting piece, we got the Industry 4.0. We've got all of these things, but we have to work together. We have to do that on a more corporate level, okay, global level in the U.S. The key to our future success, I think, lies with the companies who can build the strongest and the most robust strategic partner alliance with other businesses that complements their strengths and offsets their weaknesses, and together are committed to the ongoing development of the people. Multiplication by division. I can give you a couple examples. After I retired, I reached out to a friend of mine named Bill Andrews, who owns Williams and Associates, and we're going to be working together to help support these customers that are within, kind of a tri-state demographic with this training development, consultation, workforce development. I'm an advisor now to Drew Perrick's company, which is AH Group. They're one of the largest, if not the largest MRO in the country now. And working with them, and I gotta give a plug for Alpin Patel at Caterpillar in Lafayette, Indiana. You're talking about a visionary who wants to develop a world-class smart factory, and knows that he has to harness all of this talent that's in a plethora of places to come together in a consortium to make that dream come to fruition. Mike Chico and John Hedelson at Fanuc, and Brian McMinn and Melita Reyna at Siemens. All of these folks have been great partners to us. We just need to multiply that across the nation.
Yeah, we do. So you got me laughing again. I ran a conference in Germany and on manufacturing, and I was one of the keynotes, and I spoke about smart factory and smart manufacturing. I spoke last year, and I was part of a delegation to China to look at their factories, and I spoke about it there, and I spoke all around the country. I'm a big advocate in smart manufacturing. Siemens, phenomenal. Deloitte, they've done some wonderful things. We're a little behind the 8 ball in smart manufacturing, and I think that's something we need to work on. As we reshore, we need to employ all that, because they are in China and they're employing it in Europe, and the Japanese and the Germans are definitely in the lead in robotics. China is charging through robotics, and they installed we hit 4 million robots in manufacturing last year. China was the #1 in new installs, like 47% of the battery. I think I got that right. Wow. I do know they didn't used to make their own robots. 44% of the robots they installed last year were made in China. We need to match that or be better at it. So we need to work on smart manufacturing, digital transformation, and the robotics end it. You talked a little bit. I'm going to back up, and something sweet to my heart, because these are people that I actually employ in my firm. We do a lot of commissioning work and startup in factories. You talked about PLCs. Purdue, ASU, and University of Texas, and quite a few other universities have started degree programs in semiconductor. They're doing a little bit with certifications. We really need to work on, and there's a term out there now, stackable certificate. We really need to work on our certifications for PLCs. They're essential. As much as we employ smart manufacturing and digital transformation, the PLC is here, and it's still essential to manufacturing. And it's at the technician level. Doesn't require a degree. Getting a good certification and getting a stackable certification. When they say stackable, you get one cert, and then say you get a certification by Fanuc in robotics. And then you get a certification in PLCs from one of those manufacturers. You start stacking those, and they're actually talking about letting you stack enough of those that you can put it towards a degree at a later date if you so choose. But this is where we really need to do some work. So when you've talked about Gateway, and their certification programs, and I believe they're actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're looking for national recognition for some of these certifications, and I think that's another thing we need to do. We need to look at standardizing these certifications. Yes. So they're recognized. But any thoughts? I said a lot there. Stackable certifications, national recognition. I know that you speak about this, and that you're well embedded, particularly with some organizations, and Gateway.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's you and I could change chairs, as you had said in the first podcast that we did together, because we're preaching to the choir. I think these, that's the methodology the approach that we should take. And then as we stack these talents and we certify these talents, once we get the momentum going, then it becomes second nature to us. It becomes a part of our DNA, like it was in the 1940s and 50s. And when the conversations around the table, then the natural discussion is, well, what, Alan Bradley, are you going to do the control logics class next month? Those are the kind of conversations that we want to have taken place around the dinner table. And you had mentioned robotics. I know that a Chinese company bought Kukla, so that was a pretty good robotic manufacturer. Mike Chico and his team. Mike's one of the most dynamic leaders and visionary leaders I think I've ever met. He's the CEO for Fanuc USA. I don't know if you've had a chance to meet Mike or not, Rory, but if you haven't, you really need to meet this guy.
It sounds like I do. I've installed a lot of their equipment, and I can tell you there's a young man at Tesla, and he'll be on the show, Josh McMillan. He's one of the lead trainers, and he trains on KUKA and Fanuc, and great product, and it's the future. We don't have those people. I'm going to ask you, so 3.8 million deficiency in manufacturing. Where are we going to get these people, Harold?
Yeah. It's an urgent need. I think the first step is what we're doing today. And I know this is happening in other places in the country, but we have to bring all of the visibility. We need to bring visibility to all of us who are trying to invest in this next generation, who understands what the roadmap is to the future, because we've seen it in the past. We see the technology. You're involved, I know, Rory, in the mega factories. You're involved with the microchips. I mean, you get to go into all these places. So you're going to be able to bring some of these leaders together. I'm going to be able to bring some of these leaders together. We need a champion that can, and you could be that guy. I would nominate you to be that person that can bring all of these vested interests together and bring that pressure to the institutions, and to the politicians. I saw a sticker, I don't know, it's been a few years ago, and it didn't really resonate with me. And now I start thinking about this manufacturing renaissance and the knowledge gap that's in Washington D.C. and at the local level about manufacturing. It said, if the people will lead, the leaders will follow. And I thought, wow, okay, that really makes sense to me today. It didn't when I first read, when I saw that bumper sticker 10 years ago. But it has to be a mobilization. It has to have the momentum. It has to have a guy like Elon Musk and others who are willing to stand up and say, here's what I'm doing. And I know, Rory, I did a little research on you. I know you invested, or I don't know if Elon tapped you or if it was Tesla or SpaceX, but I know you oversaw the development of, I think it was 21, correct me, robotic labs in Nevada. That's where it starts. And then you telling me, and then me telling the people in my network, and then we mobilize a movement. We have to get a movement going. It's got to be make America great again. That's all good, and who doesn't want to do that? But it has to be a one USA, one united USA, one team, one voice, getting the same message disseminated out. Then that's when we're going to return as the number one producer in the world.
Well, I agree with you 100%, and I appreciate your comments. To clear the air a little bit, I worked with REC, Robotics Education and Competition Foundation, and they worked on the bequest of Tesla, and we built 21 labs in the state of Nevada, because that's where his first factory was, and they were robotics and automation labs. And we supplied the equipment, we did some remodeling and brought the power in, and we actually had a hand in revising or looking at their CTE curriculum. And Elon, and Tesla insisted that we're going to provide this equipment because we need this skill. So they had a say in it, and the CTE curriculum, got it. And if you can get them this certification out of high school, we'll hire them. And I had the pleasure of going, and Amelia Goulding has been on the show, and we met through that program. We've become good friends, and she's a much brighter person than me. She invited me to a high school, and they kind of had a signing day. It was just like, signing in an NFL draft, and these kids, they made a big deal about it. And they did externships and internships at Tesla. And they took some of them up, and they provided housing, and they put them in interns. They were right out of high school, but they had certifications. in FANUC and KUKA and some other certifications that were relevant and needed by Tesla. So they did that at the high school level, and we did, an innovation center at the University of Nevada in Reno as well. So it was a worthwhile program. That was a start. And Elon took that down to Texas, and I had a little vision into that as well. So those are baseline programs. But I can tell you, when Amelia and I were talking, we were kind of like, we're going to get this going, and momentum was slow. And just through the show and talking to people, Intel and Micron and Global Foundries all have started in-house internships, and Tesla's training programs, they've set the bar really, really high internally, their training. But Intel and Micron and Global Foundries all started paid internships. You're in the field working as an apprentice, and it's about a 2-year program. I think there's a associate's degree in there. So the pendulum is moving. Are we going to meet that 3.8 day? If you had asked me this time last year, I would no. We're going to struggle, but we've got momentum, and we need to keep it going. And you're right. We need to start talking to our legislators a little bit about supporting this more. I think a lot of the manufacturers have stood up, and I think they've done it out of necessity. Whatever their motivation is, it's a good thing. It really is. So. And what you're doing with Gateway and helping them, they need input from people like you and Amelia to tell them, the day when we start taking general studies is over. It needs to be specific to our needs. We talked about stackable certifications. It needs to be relevant, and that's where manufacturing needs to speak up and engage with our universities and. Even at the K to 12 level, in STEM, the DOD, I was kind of perplexed. The DOD was getting involved in STEM, and it was pointing out they see our lack of manufacturing, some of our technology and IP going away. They see that as a national threat, that we need to step up our STEM and produce in-house engineers and bring our technology back home. That nanocent technology that a lot of we have some chips out there that our military uses, and we don't want that IP going out there. So a lot of good work. I am much more positive than I was this time last year, and I'm seeing it's taken a while, but it's due to, and you've been in this a long time, and so is Terry, and so is Harry Moser and Amelia. We're starting to see a little bit of rewards. We need to push a little harder. We need to push a little harder, and we need to get more voices on board. So, Harold, who knows? We could go on and on. I'd like to have you on a panel one of these days, but that's all we have time for today. Harold, thank you so much for your time and being so generous, and really appreciate everything you do, workforce development. You're retired, but you're working harder than you ever did to empower our youth and
Yes.
and show them and opportunities that are out there. So we need more Harolds. So thank you so much. Everybody, this is Rory Francis, and you're watching another exciting episode of American Manufacturing.